I think the real thing, the message is inform yourself, educate yourself, and when somebody wants to give you a drug of whatever kind, find out as much as you can about that drug, so that when you are giving your consent, you are giving a truly informed consent. I'm actually going to give a seminar on the ethics of the SSRIs, because people could not give a true informed consent because the data about the dark side of those drugs was not made available to the public, so that it, in fact, you could not give a truly informed consent because that data was not available. And that's what David Healy has done now, is brought that data out. And so finally now, the data is out there, and you can make an informed consent. And you may choose to take an antidepressant.
Well, it's out there, but doesn't get to the public because the doctors don't provide it when they're prescribing.
They will have to now. I mean, the labels on the SSRIs are being changed. They're being stopped being given to adolescents. Probably all the SSRIs are probably going to eventually be basically forbidden to be given to adolescents.
Whoa.
And once...
Whoa.
Once...
You don't believe it, Bob?
No, I don't believe that it's going to follow that path. He's being very optimistic right now.
Well, I think that there'll be a lot more questioning, and I think a lot fewer doctors will be handing out the SSRIs like candy. I think it will really cut back, because the Brits have really taken a hard line, and so they, right now in Britain, you cannot give Paxil, you cannot give Effexor to kids under 18, and they're reviewing all the drugs, all those drugs for what's going on in adults. And they have said already things like, I think goes something like, the SSRIs should not be the first line of treatment for mild to moderate depression. Try exercise, diet, and other non-specific things.
Right.
Said that.
But isn't the trend still going to, we're giving more and more of these drugs to younger and younger kids here in this country?
Yes, we have been.
Expect that to slow down and even maybe reverse.
I pray. I mean, I don't know how we're going to get away from the Ritalin madness we're in, but maybe since the data about the effectiveness of the SSRIs, they don't work in adolescents, and they barely work in adults. That's the other part. They just barely work in adults. And for adolescents, the data is clear that they don't work, and they have the dark downside in both. Okay? So that may make doctors sit up and take notice. I don't know.
Is the pharmaceutical industry in England less in control of things? Is that why they're able to come up and face the reality?
No, it's, you know, they have National Health Service. They have a medicine control agency, which has some teeth. Our FDA has no teeth. And if they had any, they don't use them.
So I got to tell Loren this story, Bob.
Okay.
You've heard it already. But I was applying, but I think it goes along with the whole religion business. I was applying for life insurance for $1 million policy. And, you know, when you do that, they send a phlebotomist out to your house to take your blood and make sure it's really you, and make sure the urine is warm, and answer all these questions. And you sign in triplicate and quadruplicate that you give them permission to check everyone, every person you've ever met and known, anything about you, about your medical history, and you sign that you're telling the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God, or the insurance is not valid. So you answer honestly, because you know they're going to find out anyway. They're going to go and find out what you've been prescribed, what you're taking. And as the phlebotomist is leaving my house, she says, "You're the first psychologist or psychiatrist I've done this with who's not on Prozac or Ritalin or both." I said, "Wait a minute, don't leave, come back." I have her come back into my living room and sit down. "How long have you been doing this?" "Just a few minutes now. How long have you been doing this?" She says, 2 years. In Newton, where I live, it's got the highest concentration of psychiatrists and psychologists per block. It's a zoning requirement. You have to have one for every block. And for 2 years she's been doing it in that area, and I say, "How sure are you of this?" She said, "It's something that always struck me." And I started thinking after she left it, you can't get data like that. Where are you going to get data like that? Who's going to come up with, if you send out a questionnaire to psychiatrists, you get a 5% return rate, right? And it's obviously going to be biased to people maybe who are more willing to admit to things. You can't get data like that. It was statistically significant, the number.
Right. You see, but that
He's
just
a true
tells you
believer.
the level of belief
Right.
in especially the SSRIs. Those folks were probably would not take an antipsychotic because they know that they probably have a bad downside. But they will take an SSRI or speed. Speed, for some people speed kills, and for other people it makes you just as happy as a clam, and you can work like a dog. And the SSRIs give you, when they work, you have this attitude, oh, who cares?
Right.
That's the attitude.
Which is better than being depressed.
That's the mechanism of action of the SSRIs. But the problem is when you put that with another of their mechanisms, another thing that they do, which has caused this thing called akathisia, which is a tremendous mental and physical turmoil that you'll do anything to stop, okay? You combine that with the I don't care and put that in an adolescent whose mechanism for I don't caring is already not quite firm, and you have school shooters. And so what you have there is the vast majority of the school shooters in the United States have been taking SSRIs.
Oh, my God.
You go and you look at, there was a guy in Watertown. What was his name? The guy in Watertown that went back to his company and shot a bunch of people?
Yeah.
Wakefield.
Wakefield it was. Okay.
Yeah.
He was on an SSRI. And they are drugs which make people who have never been suicidal or homicidal that way. Those drugs are really quite dangerous for a percentage of people who get these two things combined, the akathisia with the I don't care. So, kill you, easy, And you know how kids are anyway. They're impulsive and they haven't got a good, fully formed conscience, so you might imagine. But it's also true in adults. There's been, every time I read of a sort of, it seems like a random multi-person shooting, I always presume that person had just started a SSRI or had just stopped.
Yo.